Get the check and get out. The owner tossed some bills on the table. Everybody knows that this client has to be treated with care, and it's the same thing every time. But please listen to me. You saw how it was. Ashley tried to justify her behavior, but the owner didn't want to listen to anything and pointed her to the door. Ashley sighed and left the office. This was the end of all her hopes. No, in another situation, she would quickly find a new job and forget about this unpleasant incident. But her daughter's life was at stake, and she would have to work long hours at the new place to do what she wanted. Besides, her boss would most likely blacklist her, and she would not be hired at any restaurant in the city, and Ashley could not do any other job than waitressing. If she had not quit college and gotten a good profession, she would not have to endure all these humiliations now, but things did not turn out the way she had once dreamed. Ashley did very well in school and easily got into college. She lived modestly with her mother, and in her second year, Ashley fell in love with her classmate Frank, and he asked her to marry him almost immediately. Ashley was madly happy. She loved Frank, and he was determined to marry her. Besides, Ashley was already carrying his child, his daughter Molly, under her heart, and only her mother cried when she learned of her daughter's impending marriage. "Honey, why are you in such a hurry? No profession, no place to live. You should finish your education first, and then start a family." "But we love each other, Mom. Everything will be fine. We will cope," Ashley reassured her. But her mother was right. Ashley was not able to continue her studies in college because Molly was not even 6 months old when Ashley realized that she was pregnant again. And Frank was of no use to their family. Yes, he loved Ashley and Molly, but faced with the household and the need to earn money on their own, he somehow quickly faded away. Everything ended with the fact that having found out about the second child, Frank's nerves gave out, and, tired of adult life, he returned to his parents, leaving pregnant Ashley alone with a small child in her arms. Of course, her mother helped Ashley, but the modest salary of a nurse was barely enough for the basic necessities. A few months after giving birth to her son Tommy, Ashley began looking for a job with a convenient schedule. Shift work as a waitress suited Ashley well, and she and her mother took turns babysitting. At first, a friend helped Ashley get a job in a cafe near her home where she worked, but soon Ashley had to look for other employment. The reason was banal. The owner of the place began to flirt with Ashley, which she absolutely did not like, and she quit. For the same reason, she had to find another job. At her third job, the boss did not harass her, but she was fined for every mistake, and almost nothing was left of her salary. And then Ashley got lucky. She was unexpectedly hired at a good restaurant. She had a good salary, lots of tips, and a strict but fair boss. The only trouble was one of the customers, a gorgeously dressed and lavishly jeweled, arrogant older woman with an obnoxious temper. Unfortunately, Mrs. Flores was one of the restaurant's special clients, and the boss demanded an impeccable level of service from his subordinates and did not forgive even the slightest faults. On her first day at work, Ashley had witnessed an altercation between the elderly woman and one of the waitresses. The woman was clearly in a bad mood, picking on everything. The coffee was cold, the taste was wrong, and then she allegedly found a hair on the saucer. And in the end, the waitress lost her job. "And why does she come here all the time?" Ashley asked her coworkers. "There's probably nobody to fight with at home. That's why she comes here every day. She seems to be related to our boss, so he tries his best, and we have nothing but trouble because of her. So be aware, next time you'll be in that lot too." At first, Ashley did not understand what it was about, and then she learned that there was a custom among the waiters in the restaurant. When Mrs. Flores appeared, they pulled matches to see who would serve her. Although most often it ended with a severe reprimand, and only 2 waitresses had ever been fired because of this woman, no one wanted to suffer more humiliation. In the 3 years that Ashley worked at the restaurant, she'd had a few short matches, but all managed without serious accusations. But on that fateful day, just when Ashley was about to approach her boss with an essential request, Mrs. Flores came to the restaurant in an extremely gloomy mood, and Ashley, by chance, had to serve her. Under encouraging looks of her coworkers, she put on the most benevolent smile and went to the table where Mrs. Flores was sitting. At first, the capricious woman asked to see the menu where the caloric content of each dish was indicated, but Ashley was ready for this request. After complying with the request, she offered the lady a taste of the dish of the day. But the customer harshly besought her, "I am able to choose what I want myself and do not need your advice. Bring me a medium-rare steak and a Greek salad, and before that, a latte with almond milk. Hurry up, I don't have much time." Ashley brought the disgruntled customer a drink at lightning speed, and she went to a nearby table to take another order. Ashley heard the disgruntled voice from Mrs. Flores. "What's that? Is that almond milk? Hey, girl, I'm talking to you." Ashley turned to Mrs. Flores, prepared for a flood of indignation, but she was already calling the administrator. Before Ashley knew it, the boss himself came to the table and immediately bustled around the woman. He ordered Ashley to replace the drink and bring a special dessert as an apology. Ashley hastily carried out the orders to please the client, but to no avail. "Girl, get all these plates of garbage off my table already," shouted the woman, measuring Ashley with a contemptuous look. Ashley began to collect the dishes hurriedly on the tray and was about to leave, but suddenly stumbled, and some plates slipped to the floor, catching Mrs. Flores's sleeve and soiling her expensive suit. "How dare you!" yelled the woman. "Are you trying to get back at me? Wretch, you can consider that you're done working here anymore, and I'll do anything to make sure you don't work anywhere, even as a cleaner." The boss ran out into the noise and saw what had happened. He immediately sent Ashley to his office and remained to settle the conflict. That's how Ashley lost her job, on which her daughter's life may have depended. When Ashley went home, her mother immediately guessed that her daughter had bad news. "Well, didn't it work out?" her mother asked sympathetically. "Worse, I got fired because of that hysterical woman client. Remember I told you? I should have hit her with the tray one last time. They fired me anyway." "Come on, God help her. It's okay. We'll get a loan. I'll do anything for Molly, and you'll find a job. Don't worry." But most of all, Ashley was worried about her little daughter's health. Molly was born perfectly healthy and developed normally. But a few years earlier, Ashley noticed that the girl had become pale and sometimes had bruises even after minor falls. One day, during a game at the playground, her nose started to bleed, and Ashley got worried in earnest. Molly was examined, and the diagnosis was shocking: leukemia. The doctors reassured them that, with expensive treatment, there was a chance for salvation, and a good one at that. But where could the nurse and the waitress get that kind of money? The women refused to give up and began contacting various volunteer organizations, friends and relatives, scraping together the necessary sum. They managed to collect most of it, but there was still a lot missing. So Ashley decided to ask the restaurant owner for help. She was not sure of success, but at least there was a chance. And because of Mrs. Flores, she had lost it. Moreover, Ashley could not find a job as a waitress. It so happened that someone had filmed the scandal with Mrs. Flores on his phone and put it on the internet. But the video did not include the screams and unfair accusations of the client, only showing a clumsy waitress dropping dishes on an elderly woman. The video immediately went viral, and that popularity played against Ashley. Many owners of cafes and restaurants in the city saw the video, and so even the lowest grade eatery was off limits to her as a waitress. She only managed to get a job as a dishwasher and a cleaner, but at several places at once. Thus, Ashley did not lose wages, but all the time spent at work. Ashley's mother took care of little Tommy and Molly's treatment. After 6 months, Molly's expensive treatment paid off, and the girl, fortunately, began to recover. Yes, Ashley worked hard, but seeing how Molly got better every day, her strength increased, and the difficulties were much easier to bear. Yes, she still had to work hard to repay the loan and debts, but Ashley and her mother were ready for difficulties and tried to support each other, protecting them from unnecessary trouble. Ashley tried to rest at least once in a while and often walked home after work. It was all she could afford now. It was springtime outside, nature was coming to life, and she dreamed that one day there would be changes in her life as well. Once, she was absent-mindedly walking down the street and contemplating. She did not notice how she came to the very restaurant from which she had had to leave in such disgrace. She stood for a while and was about to leave, but suddenly she noticed something sparkling in the grass. She bent down and saw a beautiful gold pendant decorated with precious stones. Ashley put the find in her pocket and hurried home. At home, after putting the children to bed, she took a good look at the jewelry and sighed, thinking that she would never have such a beautiful pendant. She wasn't going to keep such an expensive piece for herself, and began to think about what to do with it next. She decided at once that it was useless to take it to a pawn shop because they don't pay much. And then Ashley imagined that maybe some unfortunate old lady had lost it and now was worried. As a result, Ashley decided to advertise it and find the owner. And then, if they want to thank her, she will not mind, but if not, then fine. Ashley posted information about the pendant in a special social networking group. Immediately, she began to receive calls from purported owners of jewelry, but none of them could describe their lost jewelry. Tired of empty conversations, Ashley already wanted to remove the ad, but did not have time because the next woman who called turned out to be the owner. She not only described the pendant as accurately as possible, but also said that it could be opened, and inside should be a black and white photo and the inscription, "One life, one love, Charlotte and Benjamin." Ashley realized that the pendant really belonged to the caller. She asked how she could give it to her, and the woman tearfully asked Ashley to drop it off at her house. She explained that she was sick and couldn't leave the house very often. Ashley felt sorry for the elderly woman and agreed, even though she lived on the other side of the city. The neighborhood where Ashley came was considered prestigious, and the house where the woman lived even more so. Ashley thought with annoyance that the owner of such a place could have hired someone to go and take the pendant from her, and shamed herself for such excessive involvement. But that wasn't all. When the door opened, Ashley stared, stunned, at seeing Mrs. Flores standing in front of her. Yes, this woman looked much more modest now, in her homely attire, no jewelry, and no haughty expression on her face. But it was her. "Hello, my dear, come in," the woman said excitedly. Ashley was uncomfortable that she had dragged herself all the way out here for this woman. But she overcame herself and, taking the pendant from her pocket, handed it to the owner. The elderly woman kissed the jewel and looked up at Ashley, her eyes full of tears. "Thank you, my dear. You have no idea what you have done for me. This pendant was a wedding present from my husband. My husband was not rich, and it cost him a lot of trouble to get such a gift. He died 9 years ago, and I am living alone, and this pendant means a lot to me." Mrs. Flores invited Ashley to sit down and have coffee while she continued to gaze reverently at her pendant and talk about the days of her youth. Then she suddenly perked up and, remembering that Ashley should be thanked, offered her an expensive ring, taking it right off her finger. But the girl refused. "I didn't do it for that." Of course. But still, good deeds must be rewarded, and it will happen, believe me. Not by me, but by fate." She wanted to say something else, but Ashley was fed up with the flow of her supposed kindness and, apologizing, said that she had to go home. Mrs. Flores thanked Ashley once again and offered to at least pay for a cab home. Ashley agreed and hurried away, secretly glad that the elderly woman had not recognized her. She was not afraid of new reproaches. She would just be embarrassed for Mrs. Flores. It turned out that in her home environment, she was an ordinary, nice woman who, perhaps because of her sadness about her dead husband, turned into a spiteful person when going out in the world. Once in the cab, Ashley gradually calmed down and decided that it was better to forget this story and Mrs. Flores, because she would never see this woman again, and she had no anger towards her for a long time. In addition, the young woman cared about many other issues, so why waste energy on such trifles? To Ashley's surprise, her life began to change rapidly after this incident. A couple of days after she returned from Mrs. Flores's, she received a phone call from a well-known restaurant in the city that offered her a job as an administrator. Ashley was very surprised because she had posted a resume on the website for the position of waitress, but the woman on the other end of the line explained that the manager liked the resume and that he had decided that Ashley was the best suited for the position of the administrator. It was hard to believe her luck. Ashley even thought that there was some mistake or someone's silly prank, but she still decided to go for an interview. What if fate had finally smiled on her? Arriving at the appointed time, she found out that it was no mistake. When she heard about the salary, Ashley understood that fate was truly favorable to her and decided not to miss the chance. A few days later, she started to work. Of course, she did not have such experience, but she had worked as a waitress for a long time and knew what was required from managers, and her flexible mind, observation, and desire to work did her part. The woman knew how to communicate, not only with visitors, but also with employees, so the management had no questions for her. But then other incredible events began to happen. Unexpectedly, Ashley's ex-husband Frank showed up, having run away before the birth of their son, Tommy. She knew that he had remarried, had gone somewhere far away, and even after the news of his daughter's illness, never showed up. His parents, of course, helped them and gave some money for the treatment, but in debt, which should have been repaid long ago. And now suddenly, Frank appeared on the doorstep again with presents for the children. With a penitent look, he apologized for his behavior. He confusedly tried to explain that he had had to go to Mexico with his wife, that he couldn't visit his daughter, and now, when she had cheated on him, he realized how wrong he had been about Ashley and his children. "All right, Frank, that's enough. I'm not interested in all these details. Thanks for the gifts, but what do you want from me?" "Oh, come on, Ashley. I don't want anything. I just came to tell you that you do not need to pay back the debt to my parents. I will pay back everything, and also pay alimony for all the years. Well, maybe not right away, but I will. Just please let me see my children." "Frank, of course. They are your children, especially since they have already asked about their father many times." Ashley was actually happy. Frank's parents' debt was bothering her, so his suggestion to pay it off on her own was just right. And the alimony would help close the loan. Of course, resuming their relationship was out of the question. Her feelings were long gone. But after his statements, the pain and resentment that had been tormenting her all those years subsided a little, especially since Ashley's personal life was about to change. A handsome man often came to lunch at the restaurant where Ashley worked. His name was Stanley, and Ashley immediately noticed that he paid attention to her. Although she was very pleased, she knew that she had few chances as a divorced woman with 2 children. Who would want to take responsibility for another man's children who needed to be raised, fed, and clothed? No, Ashley was aware that a man like this, Stanley, was not for her. She was sure that even if he really liked her a lot, as soon as he knew about her children, he would immediately disappear from the horizon. And Ashley decided to postpone her personal life until better times and tried to avoid being seen by Stanley. But apparently Ashley really fell in Stanley's heart because he decided to get acquainted with her outside working hours. He went up to her after work, introduced himself, and told her straight out that he wanted to make her acquaintance. "It must be silly to invite you to a restaurant," said Stanley with a smile. Ashley smiled back. "And useless. Nice to meet you, Stanley, but I have to hurry home. My children are waiting for me." "And how many do you have?" Stanley asked with a sly squint, probably thinking Ashley was joking. Upon learning that there were 2 of them, Stanley thought for a second and then laughed merrily. "So that makes a difference. You're in restaurants almost every day, and they are probably much rarer. Why don't we all go out for dinner somewhere, or just take a walk in the park? Look how great the weather is." Ashley didn't expect such a reaction, and at first wanted to refuse. But she thought about it and decided to agree, especially since she had promised the children to go to the rides in the park a long time ago. Ashley was amazed at how easy it was for her to communicate with Stanley. Not long ago, they did not even know each other, and now she was ready to introduce him to her children and her mother. And the most amazing thing was that he was ready for this acquaintance too. And she suddenly thought that perhaps this was the love at first sight that so many talk about. And it really was. She and Stanley fell in love and spent a lot of time together and with the children. They got used to Stanley faster than to their own father, and even Ashley's mother approved of her daughter's choice. She immediately realized that Stanley was a reliable man, since he found such a contact with the children, while she never really liked Frank. 6 months later, Stanley proposed to Ashley, and she accepted with pleasure. Debts were paid, life was settled, and the young people began to prepare for their wedding. They were already quite successful and occupied a stable position in society, so they decided not to save money on the wedding and to arrange a real celebration, of which Ashley had dreamed so long ago. After all, the first time she got married was when she was in college, and then everything was sort of crumpled and chaotic. And now she wanted a beautiful wedding, and Stanley was in full agreement with her. The wedding was great. There were a lot of guests, flowers, and gifts. Ashley, who had just gone through many troubles, had found her happiness. And all this happened thanks to her resilience, optimism, and not without help from good people, as the bride thought. Of course, the main helper in life was her mother. But as it turned out, she had other benefactors too. It became clear when Ashley received another gift. It was a small basket with live violets, at the bottom of which there was a small box. Inside it, Ashley found a beautiful pendant, exactly like the one she had once returned to Mrs. Flores. There was also a note attached to the gift, in which the elderly woman sincerely congratulated the young couple and wished them many years of happiness and love, and also reported that this pendant was made to order in memory of the very piece of jewelry that Ashley must have remembered. Yes, it was surprising, but in the spirit of Mrs. Flores's character. All this time, she hadn't made herself known in any way, but she had actually recognized Ashley the same day. Apparently, Ashley got her job as an administrator with the involvement of an influential older woman. All this time, she had been around, taking an invisible part in Ashley's life, never losing sight of her for an instant. I must go to her and thank her, thought Ashley. Perhaps this unhappy, lonely woman, suffering after the death of her only loved one, is looking forward to it.
Narrated by Deirdre Eby.